foundry project came in the mail today. This is a closed chock or a hawse pipe, depending on who you talk to, for Grand Banks, and it is broken, obviously. So I will fill this in with plastic or Bondo or something, make a mold, and cast. I think he wants several of these. This is the same for the rear of the boat. It's a little longer. This one's okay, but he's missing the other one, so I'll make a mold of this and cast one. And this will be interesting. This is a pretty good sized piece. I really don't know how I'm going to make this mold yet, but I do know I have to rebuild the part that's missing. So all I did was put it on a piece of plywood, trace the part that was good, and cut out that curve. So now I can flip this over and use this to help reproduce the part. So I think I'm going to just clamp this down. I'm going to seal this edge with clay, and I think I'm just going to pour epoxy in here. Okay, all I've done so far is to clamp down the little piece of plywood that's cut the same radius as this. I've taken a little bit of clay and rounded that, kind of halfway mimic this, but also to keep the epoxy from leaking out. I'll be able to grind the epoxy easily enough. And then I sprayed with some clear varnish, and I sprayed with some Poly's 2300, and this is so that the epoxy won't stick to the board. I'll be able to get it up without breaking it. So now we're just going to set this here. So all I need to do now is to clamp this down where it won't move, and I need to fill, there's a little void under here and a little void under there. I need to fill that so the epoxy won't run out, and I'm going to go ahead and pour the epoxy. I'm going to put some thickener in here. I still want it pourable, but epoxy has a bad habit of leaking out of the smallest little cracks, so I don't want it leaking up underneath the bronze. So it's kind of a toss-up. How much is too much? I want it as thick as I can get it and still have it pour and self-level. Pour. Okay. Made it a little thicker than self-leveling, so I'm going to have to help it out. There's an issue with using a bronze original to reproduce another bronze original, and it's shrinkage. If I make a mold exactly the size of this bronze and pour the wax is going to shrink. And then if I use the wax to do a ceramic shell mold, the bronze is going to shrink. So you end up with the new item being 4 to 5% smaller than the old item. And in some cases it doesn't matter, but in some cases it does. In this case, we need to fit the existing rings on the inside of the boat. And if this is smaller, you kind of have a cosmetic issue. It just doesn't look good. But if it's shorter, the rope or the lines are going to come out of here and they're going to catch that ring instead of this nice soft curve. So I don't know how well it shows up, but I'll put a few passes of hot glue around here, and I'm going to smooth it with clay so that I'm making it bigger. And when we cast the bronze and get it all sanded up, it may in fact end up a little bit bigger than the original, but that'll be okay because he can either grind down this to fit the ring or sand the ring. If it's smaller, that's kind of an issue. So I'm building this up. It's going to be clay on top of hot glue. So this epoxy has sat overnight and it's hard. Let's see if we can get it off. 4 clamps, 2 spring clamps. And stuck a lot of it. There we go. There we go. Okay, that's pretty good. I'll sand it to match the shape, and then I can start making the start on the mold making process. Damn, that was easy. It's my experiment with building up the length and width of this end with hot glue covered with oil-based clay was a dismal failure, so after messing with it for an hour or so, I scraped it all off this morning. And I'm going to switch to Bondo. May take 3 layers. This is the rough layer. I've just tried to build it up. And then I'll start shaping it, and I'm sure there'll be holes I'll have to patch. Okay, it's the first coat of Bondo on the big hose pipe. Four-piece mold on both of these deals. So the first step was to just screw the piece down so it doesn't move around, and then I want to break it in half, so that'd be one piece on the back, one piece on the front, one piece on the bottom, and one piece on the top. I got both pieces ready for the first application of rubber. But it is late in the day, so I'm going to pass and do it in the morning. Alright, it's another day. I've looked at these things pretty carefully. I've sprayed them with Polytech Polys. If you don't, you're in trouble. This is the polyurethane rubber we use. It's easy to use, it's good stuff. It's a little slow curing. Sometimes that's kind of frustrating when you're sitting around waiting. And it will not hold up to polyester resin. So if you're going to cast like boat parts with polyester resin, you got to go with the more expensive silicone rubbers. I don't want to fill this up too much because I'm going to put a lot of thickener in it. Okay. That's it. I mix it up and I thicken it with Polyfiber 2, also from Polytech. And I'm going to make it real thick because I don't want it to run. If this was like a piece of fine art, the first coat of rubber would have no thickener in it to pick up all the detail. But this is just a big chunky piece, so that's not necessary. Okay, this is it. It's not quite thick enough to hold on the vertical surface, but I'm going to do the horizontal surfaces and then make some more. Alright, next day the rubber is cured. I did come back after the fact and put a second coat on some of these vertical areas that I didn't film. But it's good and thick now, probably thicker than it needs to be. So this morning I will put the mother mold, which will support the rubber. And for that I'm going to use this Polytech liquid plastic. One more coat of release. You don't want to forget this, or you'll be in trouble. You see how it's all dripping off the edge. I probably could have put a little more thickener in it. So the first layer is set up. It's a little thin. I'm going to put another layer. With the plastic mother mold all cured, able to flip it over, remove all the little bits and pieces I had for temporary forms, clean it up, and add the clay keyways on both ends. So we'll mix up some rubber and do the second piece of the 4-piece rubber mold. We did the second coat of rubber yesterday, and today we'll back that up with the plastic. So the plastic paste, or the plastic mother mold, is dry, and I'm going to drill 2 holes through here to bolt the 2 halves of this mother mold together so it can't move. So the molds are opened up, at least the first 2 halves. Take them apart to get the screws out. The screws were holding it to the base. I got a plan on the top and the bottom. I'm going to pour it from this side where it's real thick. So this will be the bottom. So it needs to be totally flat. So what I think I'm going to try to do is build a wall with this Formica. It's going to be hard. I'll hot glue it and build it all the way around, and then fill this with clay, maybe halfway up, and I'll pour this with the rubber with a liquid consistency, and it'll come out flat. So then when I turn it over, it'll have good support. I won't have to worry about a mother mold. It'll be sitting flat on whatever surface I pour. So around the little wall with the strip of Formica and the hot glue, and it worked pretty well. I had to get the glue really hot. In other words, I couldn't put a nice thin little bead. because that wouldn't stick to the rubber. I had to like really goop it on, but it stayed. It's pretty strong. So I filled it halfway up with clay, both of them, and I'm gonna pour them solid. I typically don't like to pour them solid because it makes it really hard to get the wax out. The rubber gets pretty tough when it gets thick, but in this case the wax is pretty thick. This is a thick casting, and it has a good taper to it, so I think it'll come out okay. They're both poured. They're very precarious right now. If they move or if they spring a leak, I'll have a hell of a mess. And once again, I failed to put newspaper under them like I should have. But they're looking good right now. If I can just not touch them for 45 minutes or so, it'll be stiff enough where I won't have to worry about them leaking. The other one came off almost too good to be true. Let's see what this one will do. Alright. Look at that. That worked very well. Worked so good on the other end, I'm going to do it on this end too. Now we're all the way around except where the clamp is, but it's really still melted, so I'm going to give it a second to cool down. I'll take the little clamp off and glue the two ends of the Formica overlapped and finish it up. We are ready to pour the final rubber piece of the mold. This is the top part. This block out is for the wax to pour in, and this is for the air to come out. Okay, molds were poured yesterday. The rubber's cured. Let's see if we can get one of them apart. Vents come out super easy. Pour spout's a little harder because it's really rough wood, and the rubber really wants to stick to it. It's going to come out. There we go. There's the pour spout. Now this little ring needs to come off. This is the Formica ring. Okay, that was easy. Let's see if the rubber will come out. Oh my goodness. Easy as pie. Molds are finished. I got them opened up. Got the originals pulled from the middle. I'm going to put them back together and pour waxes and see how they do. This rubber is the same as this rubber, but the lighter rubber has the thickener mixed in it. It kind of changes color. Other than that, it's the same product. So the molds are put back together, and all I did was wrap them with packing tape. I'm going to have to pour this one at this angle until it's halfway filled, and then cock it up and get it straight. So it should be no problem. Just waiting for the wax to melt. Okay, pouring the second one. Need to clean up the original, the one that was in good condition, to get it back to the owner. I've never tried to remove Bondo, but it's plastic, so it should burn off. Yeah, this won't be bad. So it all came off. It's pretty clean. It needs a little steel wool maybe. I never really got it particularly hot to get the Bondo off. Next time we'll clean these waxes up, make a ceramic shell mold, and pour some bronze. Thanks for watching.